Oh yeah.
She was 88 years old. She was out for a walk, her morning walk that she went on a regular basis. And she was, slaughtered by this dog. What went wrong? Are they born that aggressive?
No,
Or
I mean,
are they trained to be that aggressive? How is it that a dog would wind up slaughtering an elderly woman who's out trying to get some exercise?
it's 100% under conditioning. 100%. Uh, Let me give you a little statistic. Pit bulls, the umbrella term pit bulls, pass the test to be therapy dogs or service dogs 80 to 90% of the time. Golden retrievers, big time family dog. Everybody all over all the dog food. Oh, this is supposed to be the best dog for your kid. They don't pass the test 70% of the time.
Local Matters family, today we are um, experiencing a special treat, and that is Mr. Dennis Briatico. We are blessed with his presence on the Local Matters podcast. And what we always tell people is that if you're a guest on the podcast, that means that you are part of the family. So welcome to the Local Matters podcast family. How you doing today, Dennis?
I'm doing very well. I am honored and pleased to be here. I am glad that you asked me to come on so I can tell you a little bit about what I do and who I am.
Well, thank you so much. Here on Local Matters, we talk about various matters of community interest. We've talked about, mental health, social services. We've talked about elections. We talk about school systems and what people think about that. So basically, any service that people as taxpayers pay for, we've talked about at some point or another on Local Matters, except the whole business of how you take care of animals. We have not, this will be our very first episode on
Well,
animal rescue and care. So you get to be the inaugural guest to talk about that important topic.
I am absolutely honored. Thank you so much. And I'm glad to be part of the family.
Great, great. Now, one of the things that we always do as a traditional Local Matters is that we ask all of our guests to introduce themselves, sort of what you do and how you started doing what you do. You told me you were a rescuer and an animal advocate. How in the world did you get into that?
Well, if you would ask my mom, she would tell you that I've always been doing it. Like
Okay.
since I was old enough to not be allowed to bring a dog home. That's just kind of what I've been doing. One of my first jobs was at a multi-use facility that was an aviary. They bred miniature horses and they had a dog kennel. And then I hung out at a pet shop as a teenager. And then, the older I got, the more manhood set in and empathy set in as an adult. And the more I got into the rescue side of the animal world. And I am currently one of the media managers for Friends of North Augusta Animals. I am a foster. I am a proud area rescuer. I'm proud to help the animals right here in my home city of North Augusta and trying to help them to get the coverage that they need that sometimes the city doesn't provide. And kind of really what pushed me into turbo mode of rescue is a little story. Um, my first marriage, we had animals, and I helped this woman, this young lady, raise her two kids as they were my own. And the marriage ended badly, as some marriages do.
Sorry about
And
that.
she kind of she took the kids, and I kind of was left to pack up a car. And in the car, I just took what I could fit, and I took my dog. And it was a horrible, depressing moment in my life. And instead of just like going straight to my mom's, I went downtown. I went in one of the parking lots that's like overflow parking for like Mellow Mushroom or something. And I seriously had a thought about whether or not I wanted to keep going in life because I felt like I'd lost everything. But I had my dog,
Mhm.
and my dog put his paw on my hands. And I know in that moment that I had to keep going. And in that moment, I kind of made a choice that I was going to help as many dogs as I could and many cats because we're cat people too. Okay, I'm centering myself again. That's a hard thing for me to talk about, and that's really kind of what flipped the switch to rescue Dennis.
Okay. Okay. All right. Very good. And it's obvious that you really, really love animals.
Yes, I do. I really do.
If you didn't, you wouldn't be as emotional as you are right now. So you've always cared for animals, always been a rescuer at heart. And
Yes,
then you just started taking that to the next level in terms of not just your own pets, but in other pets as well.
correct. Like in all things, you kind of have to grow up, and in rescue, it was a growing up experience because there's a lot of politics in rescue, and sometimes you see some cattiness amongst the rescues. So it's all about like conducting yourself to do the most good. And at first, I was probably one of the guys that you would peg as going after the bad rescues because I did.
Mhm.
But like, I realized, you want to get those funds in the hands of what you know is good rescue. But ultimately, you don't want to tarnish the reputation of rescue as a whole. So after some years of doing that, I kind of felt like, I could take all that negative energy and all those bad feelings I have inside of me that I see going after bad rescues and turn it into something good. And I've been fostering and saving dogs one by one ever since, and cats. And my wife loves cats, and she'll bring cats in, and we'll help cats too. And so it's a family thing as well. And birds, we have two cockatiels and a parrot. Um, but you get to the point where you grow up in rescue. And I'm at the point now where I've grown up and I found my rescue family, I feel like. And that's Friends of North Augusta Animals. And
Mhm.
the thing that makes it good is there's a group of us. It's not one person who's running a rescue that makes all the hierarchy of decisions. We all kind of have a say. And even though Tyler started this rescue, Tyler Stephen Gales is a good man. That's how he allows the rescue to operate. We all have a group chat that we can kind of talk to one another and decide how we're going to handle any issue. And it definitely helps keep us. We all keep each other in check, you know, and don't let one another drift too far. And here lately, I'm really starting to see more. Well, somebody realizes this person has a strength and this person might have a weakness, and I'm seeing more weaknesses rely on strength. And I think that's making this more of a team and more of a family. And I'm excited to rescue with them going forward.
Now, are you a nonprofit organization? Is the Friends of North Augusta Animals a nonprofit organization or
We
just an
are
informal group?
a bona fide 501c3.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And you've been around for how long?
Uh, I think they've been doing it for over a decade now, and I've been more heavily involved. I've kind of worked with them before, raised money for them, but I've been heavily involved for I want to say the last 8 months
Okay, okay,
with
all right.
this group. I have rescued with other groups like Amali's Militia. I fostered for way in the past, and
Mhm.
then I've done independent things where you just go out and a dog needs your help, so you find a way to get it vetted and you put it in a good home. But like I said, I feel like I've come full circle now. And now that I'm with this group, I found my rescue family somewhere I can kind of belong. And I'm excited about the future going forward with it.
Excellent. All right. Now, when I first started thinking about doing this show, I actually started thinking about my time with the city of Augusta. Um, we, of course, operate an animal shelter, and unfortunately, we had a really high kill rate.
Mhm.
And of course, we tried to put some ordinances and things in place to prevent the number of strays that would have to come into the shelter.
Right.
But it's always sad, that basically you got a euthanasia chamber over there and you're putting down a lot of animals because nobody's claimed them, nobody's adopted them. We even at some point initiated a program where we were sending animals out of state because in the northeastern states, in particular, they have such strict animal laws that there aren't enough animals to go around. They don't have a stray dog problem. They have a problem with people who want pets not being able to get them. So we would, put pets on a plane and send them to New Hampshire or someplace. So, but those were the sorts of things that we would see happening. And I always wondered what alternatives, what's an alternative to having to put down so many animals? How can you make this work?
Well, I can tell you what we're doing here is interesting. And excuse me, uh, one of the things we've implemented, like you discussed, is sending animals north. We just had a day yesterday where one of our rescue partners from Ohio, coming back home rescue, I got to meet Heather and John, and they're very good people that run that rescue. They came to the shelter, and because Officer McBride, Craig McBride with the North Augusta Public Safety, is the animal control officer now, is a wonderful man. He's super flexible, and he's all about getting the dogs out the front door, as he would put it. And I'm
Mhm.
100% behind him for that. He's willing to come down to the shelter on a Sunday on his free time to meet these people. So yesterday there were 4 dogs available that their stray hold was up that could be taken out of the shelter. There's 3 more there that are on stray hold till like Thursday, but we could take 4 dogs out of there yesterday. Well, our rescue partner in Ohio came came in and they took 3 dogs. And I just adopted out my 2 dogs that were my fosters. So I took the last dog. So we went into the local shelter yesterday and we pulled all the available dogs that we could pull. And that was a pretty magical moment. But it does work well. I think you kind of got to be picky where you send them north because you don't want to send them to a situation where people are just meeting at paperwork like a PetSmart and signing paperwork and taking the dog and going. You
Mhm.
want to send them to a rescue up there that you know is going to vet the adopters and put these dogs and cats in a proper home. Um, One of the other rescues that we've partnered with is Dog Star in Connecticut, and they're another good rescue. We've sent a couple dogs there over the year, uh, and I think like if you don't have community involvement, and that's one of the huge things that we have here in North Augusta is when I came aboard, I kind of looked at the medians like if I can be slick and I can get this media going and I can do some popular TikToks and make some videos and kind of hype things up and make some good videos for these animals and get them out there in the public eye. Eventually, the community is going to come along and they're going to start having our back the way the community should have your back in a city animal shelter situation. And sure enough, we were kind of dragging along and dragging along. But here, really in the past few weeks, it seems like the community is stepping up and they know what's going on in the shelter. They know what we have to do to put as few animals down as possible. And we haven't put any animals down that weren't aggressive or sick in the last 6 to 7 months now.
Oh, wow.
So the city shelter has been what they would call no kill for
Mhm.
6 to 7 months. This is the North Augusta city shelter of old that you used to hear the stories about that we don't know if they're true or not. It doesn't matter. Um, it was a dark spot on the city. But I think now, thanks to Officer McBride, who's just a great man, and Bully for You Rescue, we partner. There's more than Friends of North Augusta Animals. There's Bully for You Rescue, and there's Molly Militia, who helps with a lot of the cats and some of the dogs, and they run the local cat room at the North Augusta PetSmart. It really has been a multifaceted machine, and it's been a beautiful thing to see because it's not really like somebody organized it. It's more like a group of people with honest, good intentions that wanted to change the shelter. The right group of people all came together at the same time, and now we're just making it happen. And like I said, this is one of my bucket list life goals was to change the North Augusta City shelter for the better. And seeing it happen means everything to me.
Okay. Now, and you said 6 or 7 months, and you haven't put any animals down in the
We've
North
put
Augusta shelter? That
we have put officially put down one dog that was too aggressive to be adopted.
one very aggressive dog. Okay. And does that mean that there are fewer animals coming into the shelter? Is that one of the reasons that you have not had to, they at the shelter have not had to put any animals down?
No, it takes teamwork to make the dream work, and we got the teamwork, so we're making the dream work. And like I said, the cities, the people in the community, that I mean, honestly, you can never have enough community involvement. We're starving for grassroots community involvement. We need more fosters. Uh, there's a supply issue at the city shelter. We need more people that are just willing to donate supplies, people that can come out and work the events that we do to raise money. Uh, Even if you can't take an animal into your home, there are things that you can do to help.
So are they taking in the same number and they're just getting adopted out? Is that why they have not had to put any down?
Yeah, we're adopting these dogs out.
You're getting them adopted out. Okay.
And,
So,
I will say, there are a lot of people out there that don't like the no kill movement. So let's just reflect on that briefly.
mhm,
I understand that because you don't want to go put a bunch of bad dogs in family homes because then you make the situation harder on all of the shelters overall because it gets a bad reputation. But we've gone as far as we even have a trainer that works with us, a dog trainer. Uh, and he helps us with any dogs that may have any questions. All of our dogs get evaluated. We're really picky about the homes we put them into. So far it's been really successful. So, but I think it's important to say to change the opinion of the people of the city that have had that rumors and stories they've heard growing up about the North Augusta shelter that we are a no-kill shelter now.
okay. Okay. That's good. Now, did they also make some changes with their ordinances?
Officer McBride is fairly new to the shelter, and he's just a wonderful man. And that's really he's let the
Well,
rescues in, and he's willing to cooperate.
okay.
Now, if we could get a little bit more funding from the city for supplies, and maybe the thing about the city shelter is, and this is my opinion, because the city shelter it's like part of a maintenance shed that they converted to hold animals here. And it's out at the trash dump at the North Augusta trash dump, which is off Clay Pit Road. Almost nobody knows it is. Like if you lose a dog in the city, you really got to call around to find it. I feel like this it's time for the city that spent $10 million on the ballpark, and you see the $300,000 street sweeper going down Martintown Road. It's time for that city to step up and take responsibility for domestic animals because domestic animal overpopulation is a responsibility of the citizens of the city.
Mhm.
Therefore, taxpayer dollars should go to help these animals. And if we've got money for all this other stuff, like they've got a repurposed military vehicle that they use for SWAT, the thing alone has like $7,000-8,000 worth of tires on it. There's got to be more money for us to work with these animals. North Augusta per capita is probably one of the wealthiest cities in the state of South Carolina. There's not a reason that we don't have a storefront city shelter. There should be no reason. You have to call the officer and thank God for this officer because he will go meet people to get their dogs back. He'll do everything he can to get them out the front door. And he's really been the hinge pin in this miracle situation that we've pulled off.
Mhm.
He'll do everything he can. But imagine what we could do if we just had a storefront. Maybe the city pays for one adoption coordinator, just somebody to sit with the dogs like 4 or 5 at a time downtown in one of those old storefronts and take them back to the shelter at night. Do whatever you got to do, but something better than what we have, something more inviting,
Okay.
something the public knows about.
Right. And let me ask this question for somebody that is your average person who is not necessarily a pet lover. There are those of us, we don't hate them, but we don't necessarily love them either. Just we wouldn't ever have a pet, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Um, Given all the competing needs, like you're talking about, to run a city, you got umpteen things that you have to fund and pay for because the taxpayers are expecting those services. Why should that average taxpayer care about increasing the funding for the animal control budget?
Well, Janice, let's shoot the animal conservatives down real quick.
Okay,
Not everybody has kids, but everybody pays for schools, correct?
that's correct.
66% of American households have cats and dogs. It's just
Okay.
as much our responsibility to take care of that problem as it is any other problem.
Okay. 66% of households have a pet.
Have at least a dog or a cat was the last
Wow.
statistic I read. And that's probably even a little more heavier
Mm-hmm.
population because we don't have the laws they do up north, like you discussed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So you're saying just, we all pay school taxes, whether we have kids in school or not. So we should all be doing some things to take care of
Yeah.
pets, whether,
Not being a part of the problem is not a good reason to ignore the problem.
okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. You
Because
know,
eventually one of those stray cats or stray dogs is going to show up at your house and you're going to be like, what is this doing here? Well,
mhm.
it's part of the problem. It's something that we have to, it's something that every modern city where there's a bunch of people living together and everybody's got dogs and cats and they're overpopulating, it's just something that has to be dealt with. And the more you sweep it under the rug, the worse the problem gets. And we've had a heck of a problem here controlling the cat colonies because of that. Because right now, the city really doesn't do anything with the cats. It's all on us. Uh, Friends of North Augusta Animals has paid for most of the vetting for all of that.
Okay.
And it's expensive. And honestly, funds are low. And that's why we're doing the supply drive. And that's why we are constantly on Facebook asking for money because
Okay.
we rely on people to save these animals.
Okay. Um, Let me ask this. Is the question I think I want to ask is why do we find so many strays? Do people just decide they have them as pets and then decide they don't want them anymore? Are they all getting lost? I mean, what is the reason that we see so many stray animals roaming our streets?
Well, it's a combination of things. With anything, you're going to have, whether it be any issue, guns or poverty, you're just going to have irresponsible people that move those statistics, that people that just have cats or dogs on their property and don't really care for them. I'm not sure why they have them, but they're there. And they run into another neighborhood dog, and they have a litter of puppies. And all of a sudden, you take those two dogs and you make them 10 dogs. I mean, it can really get out of hand really quick just from that. But then you have people, and, and these are people that we try to help. This is Friends of North Augusta Animals is a very multifaceted thing. So one of the things we work with is owner retention, and that's part of probably the reason why we're also seeing less animals at the shelter. Is if somebody doesn't have the money to pay for proper vetting of their animal, if we can, we will help. It's a group decision. It depends on our funds. But like uh, there's an unhung gentleman that it's very well known in the North Augusta community that everybody sees him and his dog every day going up the hill to Kroger, and he hangs out by Jersey Mike's. His name is Mr. Chris, and his dog's name
I,
is Scrappy.
I think I've seen it.
You
I think I've
probably
seen it.
have. He
Yeah.
he he he's a shorter gentleman. You might have seen him either pulling a wagon with the dog in it or pushing a buggy with the wagon with the dog,
Yeah, with a grocery cart. Yeah.
like a little brown terrier mix.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I've
Uh,
seen it.
Well, our organization has paid for that dog's vetting for at least the last 2 years.
Okay.
That's one of the things we do, and that's probably part of the reason why we're seeing less at the shelter too, is because we're trying to have tentacles. And, like the guy who's plugging the dam as the holes open up. Well, if we can get a lot of tentacles, maybe we can plug the dam, and we're kind of doing a good job at that, you know. Uh, but I also think, you know, there like I said, there are people who get dogs and cats with the best of intentions and just care in the moment. They get it, but don't realize what the responsibility is.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that's when the animal kind of falls by the wayside. And I guess with Christmas coming up, one of the things I want to say to everybody listening and everybody watching on YouTube, hello, dogs and cats, parrots, they're not a toy. It's not a toy.
Mhm.
This is, if you get a medium sized terrier, I had a Jack Russell Terrier. That was the dog that saved my life. The dog lived till he was 22 years old. I
Mhm.
had to take care of his food, his water, his vetting, vaccinations, everything he needed for 20 years that I had him.
Mhm.
So you people really need to mull that around in their head
Mhm.
before they go get that cute puppy to put under the Christmas tree. And before you get that cute puppy to put under the Christmas tree, think about the dogs in the shelter that were under a Christmas tree last year.
Okay. So people underestimate the responsibility associated with taking care of an animal.
Extremely, extremely. I mean, it's I'm not knocking anybody, but I think with a lot of issues, most of the time the problem is ignorance. It may not be willful, but it's lack of understanding of the situation. I mean, I
Mhm.
have a dog in the other room. It's 110 pounds,
Mhm. Wow,
and
a big dog.
this is a dog that I adopted off of Craigslist. And I was like, if I don't go get this dog, and I really wanted the whole litter, it could be that somebody who doesn't know how to take care of this dog gets a hold of it. This was right before I came out into the rescue.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the thing. I mean, not only do you have people out there like it's not a starter dog, you know. Some dogs just aren't starter dogs. Like you need to start small and scale up, and maybe later in your life you get the 110-pound dog. But I don't recommend, you know, some kid out of high school this got his first apartment, go get a dog that's part Great Pyrenees.
Okay. Okay. So folks underestimate the responsibility. It's not small and cute anymore.
Mm.
Some instances they may not just have the financial resources to care for the dog in terms of food and veterinarian bills and all that kind of stuff. So all of those things kind of add up to uh,
Here's
dogs
people
just
die.
being free.
People die. People die.
And
That
people
happens too.
die. That's another one. Yeah.
People die, and then nobody wants grandma's dog, and grandma's dog goes to the shelter. It's one of the saddest shelter situations you can see. Is
Hmm.
that dog that's probably almost a senior itself
Hmm.
that's known love all its life, balled up in the corner of the shelter. It's heartbreaking.
Okay. Do we also see, or do you see a fair amount of animal abuse where people just, just don't treat the animals very well?
Well, I mean, it's easy to speculate. It is. I think that's one of the things we as rescuers kind of get in the habit of doing is we kind of like make up stories for our dogs that we take in, and it may not always be true. But a
Hmm.
lot of times you do see a lot of abuse. And I'll tell you that one of the things we have a problem with, particularly in North Augusta, a lot of the dogs we've taken into the city shelter are what they call pit bulls. I'm not a fan of this term because anybody that knows anything about dogs knows that it's an umbrella term that describes a number of dogs,
Hmm.
you know. But yeah, I just don't get why people go out and get these dogs and then they get picked up astray. And then I guess there's maybe an issue of whether they can pay the fine and for the vaccinations to get the dog back. So they just leave the dog, you know, and then they probably go get another.
Okay.
You know, that's just definitely the last two dogs that I fostered were a bonded pair. One was technically probably more of what you would call an American Staffordshire. The other one is what they call a pocket bully, which is this kind of newer last 10 years 5 years sort of thing where let's try to make an animal that already exists smaller. I don't know why they do. I guess, but and I fostered them, and they're they were wonderful, beautiful dogs, and I was glad. I feel like I got them into a wonderful home, and I was glad to be able to work with them. I have in my home this year fostered three what they would call pit bulls, one black mouth cur, and now I have a Jack Russell mix that I just pulled yesterday. But in North Augusta, I want to say probably 60 to 70% of the dogs we see at the shelter would be labeled as that umbrella term pit bull.
Okay. And as you speak of that, I'm glad you brought that up. And I'm going to give this example, and you just better inform me and our listeners in Local Matters Lane about what this really means. I was notified by a friend of mine who's out of town. This happened several states away. But he sent me a link to an article where the mother of one of my college classmates had been attacked and killed by a pit bull or something on that order, an aggressive dog. And she was 88 years old. She was out for a walk, her morning walk that she went on a regular basis, and she was, slaughtered by this dog. What went wrong? Are they born that aggressive?
No,
Or
I mean,
are they trained to be that aggressive? How is it that a dog would wind up slaughtering an elderly woman who's out trying to get some exercise?
it's 100% under conditioning. 100%. Uh, Let me give you a little statistic. Pit bulls, the umbrella term pit bulls, pass the test to be therapy dogs or service dogs 80 to 90% of the time. Golden retrievers, big time family dog. Everybody all over all the dog food. Oh, this is supposed to be the best dog for your kid. They don't pass the test 70% of the time. Every dog. Okay, I'm gonna break this down
Mm-hmm.
real smooth. I watched an interview yesterday that featured a man I love, uh, Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Mm-hmm.
and the discussion was they monitored a magpie, which is a type of crow, putting pebbles in a half-empty bottle of water, one at a time, to raise the water level up to where the bird could drink out of the top of the bottle of water,
Mm-hmm.
and how Arcadian that was in the tool use of the bird. And his point of this was, and there was this wonderful quote he made, and I'm not going to try to do the quote, but I will get the gist of it. That every time we do a major animal study, we find out that we know way more about, we find out that we don't know anything about the animal. Like
Okay.
by the end of the study, we know way more about the animal. Now, let's come full circle back to dogs. Uh, like I said, I love cats just as much, but cats aren't known for attacking people and killing them. So let's make this point.
Right.
We have been friends with dogs probably before we were Homo sapien even. Uh, our history with dogs goes all the way back to the earliest recorded history. Cave paintings show man and dog side by side, fires and food.
Mm-hmm.
Humans have been conditioning dogs since the beginning of our story, and they have been our friends though. So anything that goes wrong with them is part of the human problem with the relationship with them.
Okay.
And anywhere that you have a person that gets attacked by a dog, I feel like you have an irresponsible owner 90% of the time. Dogs, back to what Mr. Tyson said, they have evolved with us since the beginning of our story. Not just what do we don't know about them, what do they know about us? How do they react to us? I don't even think that we have a clue what goes on in their little heads sometimes. I think our heads would explode if they know how much, like maybe we wouldn't do some of the things we do in front of them if we knew what they knew.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm sorry that this happened.
Yeah, I
Thank
was
you so
I
much.
I was
But
very sorry to hear it. And he sent me a news story where my classmate was interviewed on the news. This made big news. And he was just in tears because he's an only child. His father's already deceased, and this was his mother.
yeah, and some people just shouldn't have dogs. I mean, it's just how it is. It's not something I like to say as a rescuer, but it's true. And
Mhm,
here you had a dog, and it could have been a mastiff. It definitely wouldn't have been a Chihuahua, but it could have been a
mhm,
mastiff. It could have been a Great Dane. It could have been any of those larger dogs. It could have been a Great Pyrenees.
mhm,
But because there is it's like a status thing, I guess, with what you would call pit bulls,
mhm,
it's like, I mean, I know the history goes back to early American times. They left these dogs to watch the kids. Like they would go out and work the field, and the AM staff, particularly the staffy, would be left at the house. They were called nanny dogs to watch kids.
mhm,
But like, I kind of feel like if you've got that attitude that maybe you don't really care about people and you have a dog like that, and then that attitude, or you're irresponsible, that attitude rubs off on your dog. And I think that could be any dog.
okay.
I mean, just because a chihuahua can't kill you, don't mean that one won't bite you,
Right. That means he won't. That means he won't try. He just probably can't make his way through that.
And
Um.
I guess what I'm going to say is dogs are just as much individual as people, in my experience. I've been working with dogs side by side since I was a little kid. And they can be one end of the spectrum to the other, just like people can. They can have mental health issues, just like people can.
Mhm,
So we have to be a little more empathetic, and we don't want to get on the slippery slope of labeling a particular type of dog as something when probably most of those dogs are good. And with any of the bully breeds, I want to kind of touch on, they are equipped to do the job.
mhm,
That's not their fault. That's something that we did to them.
mhm.
And once again, I hope they take the person that owned that dog and they prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, I hope they
Just,
have been too. I
just to
haven't
make it,
followed the story.
I'm
Um,
100% for that end of it,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. I haven't followed the story, so I don't know what became of the owner. I think they did put the dog down, of course, because
Well,
very
yeah,
aggressive.
you have to at that point. And
Um,
and if something like that happens, it's not good to try to take really a dog with that reputation and put it back in the system, because then it hurts somebody else
right.
and it makes
And then they,
all the system look bad.
right, right. It hurt somebody else and said, "Well, y'all knew that was a vicious dog anyway, so why?"
Right. So
We, oh,
as in the
mhm,
shelter and as rescue, you don't want to put dogs like that back in the house.
okay. We only have a couple minutes left. Is there anything else that you wish folks generally knew about animals, animal rescue, or anything like that? Is there anything else you want to share with Local Matters family?
We need your help. I mean, we always need help, and you're always welcome to. Now that I'm part of the Local Matters family, I'm gonna tell y'all are welcome to come be part of our rescue family. Even if you can't take a dog or a cat, maybe you can work an event, or you can go down to the shelter and take pictures of dogs, or read them a story, or anything. Bring a
Okay,
bag of dog food. Miss Janice, can I run in the other room and show the viewers the dog I just took out of the shelter yesterday?
sure.
Okay. This is the first time for this podcast, so let's do it right.
It's the
Let's get
first
the dog.
time. Local Matters family, I hope you're enjoying this episode. This is indeed something different. And while he is getting that dog, I would ask you to please subscribe to our channel if you've not already. We are the Local Matters podcast of Georgia. We discuss various topics related to state and local government and other issues. So please subscribe to our channel. Also, please follow us on Facebook. Tell us about this new friend you have there.
This is my new friend Topper. He's very obviously, once you spent some time with him, a little Jack Russell mix.
Hmm.
Um, Once we get him vetted, I'll be doing his foster. Once we get him vetted, he will be available for adoption to us.
Okay.
He already knows sit and lay down. He's a good boy, and these are
Hmm.
the type of dogs that we're trying to help and get out of the
Okay.
shelter. Yes.
Now, this is not the 110-pound dog you were talking about earlier, right?
Oh, I can get him if you want to see him.
No. Well, if you want to, yeah, go ahead, bring him on.
Let's show the viewers what a responsibility looks like.
Local Matters family, please also know that we are on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcasts. So if you would prefer to get your podcast via audio, all of our episodes are available on audio as well. Please feel free to browse our channel to see some of the episodes we've done. We don't do video every single week, but this is a special treat where we have one. And that's the big boy.
This
That's
is he's standing up on his back legs right now, taller than me sitting down.
right.
He is a Great Pyrenees and German Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Moose have our own TikTok channel, the Moose Caboose. And we talk a lot about dog ownership and fun videos with dogs. And, that's our side project. That's my big
Okay.
baby,
And what's the name of the channel? Go ahead and promote that.
the Moose Caboose.
The Moose Caboose.
You can
Okay.
also find the Friends of North Augusta TikTok channel right there, linked to it.
Okay. It's on TikTok. Okay. All right. Well, we're about to close out. Is there any other thing that you want to share with us before we do?
Y'all have a happy holiday and consider adopting an animal this Christmas. They really need you more than you know.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Briatico of the Friends of North Augusta Animals. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Local Matters podcast of Georgia.
I'm proud to be part of the family. Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.